It's not easy being a banker in America. One time, Barack Obama called them fat cats. That was pretty bad, obviously. If you're a banker, you don't want to be called that in front of everyone. It
So did Muse, by the way.
Yeah, there you go.
Muse, I love Muse. They have like this
The
one
President
song.
and Muse?
I mean, come on. Does it
I
get any
remember
better
that
than
song. I know what you're thinking
Yes,
of.
yes.
So they were called fat cats. And also, they apparently don't get paid nearly enough. So we've got some information, a survey coming out of many people in corporate finance, finance professionals, I should say. And they were polled on how satisfied they are with their pay. And we found that more than 2/3 are unsatisfied with their pay package last year. Now you might imagine, well, of course, what do they make? 20, 30,000 a year, something like that?
No one thinks they make 20,000 a year.
35,000 a year, maybe. Nope.
What about
363,000
That's the
a year,
average
apparently.
Wall Street salary.
The average.
And they're crying about it. Someone
Yeah.
called a freaking wambulance.
363.
So true.
That number is so large. Normally, I only see it when like I click on like a review of like a new Bugatti or something like that, like a new car. Bugatti's more expensive, but an expensive car, Ferrari or something. But they're making it every single year. Now, I understand they have more expenses. Caviar is expensive, for instance. But still, they're making a lot of money, but many are not happy. And in addition, before we actually start the commentary on this, about 1 in 3 say that their job is too high stress and pays too little. I don't doubt that their jobs are to some extent high stress, but again, saying that they're paid too little.
That's
what do you guys think about
so
this?
incredible to me. Like this sense of entitlement that they have is amazing. But look, I obviously don't make that kind of money, so it's really hard for me to see their perspective. But I did speak to someone, and this person shall go unnamed. I won't reveal his identity. And he was telling me about how if you combine the income of him and his wife, they make about that much or more. And he was making the argument that it's actually not that much money when you have children, and especially when you're trying to provide like quality education for them. You don't want to put them in the public school system. It's not that much money. Like you still have moments where you can't have the caviar, but maybe just the filet mignon. It's really
my heart's bleeding. I'm sorry.
No, I know, and I'm not saying that this is acceptable behavior, and I'm not saying like they should be whining about the amount of money they're making. I mean, think about it. They rob like the middle class and the working class, destroy the economy, get a bailout, and they continue to make the kind of money that they're making, which is ridiculous. And then they turn around and they cry about it. Like, oh, my life is so tough. Tell that to the number of people that lost their homes because of these shitty subprime mortgages.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing in the second hour the story of the guy who was charged like $12,000 because his neighbor owed money on his mortgage, I think.
Yeah, that story is amazing.
Because of a typo on the apartment number or something, and he ended up having a heart attack in court. And then the guy who caused that, who they kept charging him, even after they knew it was a typo, he's like, I don't get paid enough, this sucks. Now, so as you say, I don't doubt that 363,000 is a lot to me. I imagine that people can get used to any amount of money. And I think that the problem is that as we make more money, we just so naturally raise, well, I'm gonna have a nicer car now, and I'm gonna live in a nicer place, and the school I'm gonna send my kids to is a little bit nicer. And you're getting more, but I think that Americans, whether you're making 30,000 a year or 300,000 a year, we don't really save much anyway. We're balanced on the razor's edge of losing our job and being broke in 3 months, just you're doing it at a much higher level if you're a banker. So I think that we cause more stress because as we make more money, we don't actually save the money and have a nice cushion.
That's a fair point. I know of a lot of people that do that. No, they are still whiners, and I don't feel bad for them at all, right? But we gotta change that mentality. For someone who's making $30,000 a year, of course it's much harder to save, right? But we need to stop being such a materialistic and money-driven society where it's like, oh, I'm making a little more money, so I gotta have the nicer car. I gotta buy a bigger house. No, I mean, we should be comfortable and happy with modest things. Like, you don't need the nicest car. You don't need the biggest apartment. I remember in one of my vlogs, someone was complaining that my apartment was too small. And I'm like, dude, I live on my own and I love my apartment. Like, why do I need a big apartment?
And they can see like one angle of your apartment.
Right, so
well,
you can't
to be fair, he's looked in your windows, but how does he know?
Creepy.
And what does he care if your apartment is small?
No, but that kind of shows you the mentality that Americans have. Bigger, better. You know, like that's the constant mentality that people have here. And it's like, no, you could be perfectly happy living in a humble home or a humble apartment, driving a car that runs, that's dependable. You know, don't buy into like the Kim Kardashian lifestyle. Well, everything has to be like a freaking Mercedes Benz or I don't know, Bugatti or whatever other car that you mentioned.
Well, yeah, but let's be clear. I mean, we're talking of people who are clearly in the 1%. You know, if you make $300,000 or more, then you're already in the 1%. And you are not necessarily as close to being one paycheck away from disaster like 99% of Americans who make I think the average income now is fallen from $50,000 a year now to I don't even, below that, definitely. And so when we have these people who are complaining about this, you know, this just, I can't tell you how angry it makes me.
It's like a slap in the face to the
yeah.
Americans that paid for their freaking bailout. You know what I mean? Like all the people that got screwed over because of the mortgages, that got screwed over because they destroyed the economy. I mean, you have absolutely no right to whine and cry.
Well, and also it just shows that when you don't prosecute, like the Department of Justice has not prosecuted the bankers for any of the laws that they broke, laundering money. Remember, HSBC found to be laundering money for the drug cartels, but hey, they get away with that. That's okay. They've done it twice now. But when you have actual real people, you know, that would be just a bridge too far. We can't handle that.
Yeah, we've learned in America over the past at least 10 years that if you're going to steal money, you have to steal billions. You have to be prosecuted for that. But yeah, and people are on the edge, man. I mean, not everybody is in the situation that we are, where we're somewhat lucky. Like, I feel lucky. Like, if I, like, God forbid, if I lost my job, I could, you know, pick up change on the street. My standard of living doesn't necessarily have to drop that much. But most people don't necessarily have that situation, and I feel bad for them.